So everybody want to know how I keep whipping up everything so fast while being a CEO and a full-time artist. I'm sitting here trying to tell you that.
It's Terrence, man.
So like, I feel like I'm gonna wrap up some points with this, because now with what you was mentioning with partnerships and collaborations, that was literally part of our meeting today. So I think this will be a great opportunity to get an expert outside point of view, where it's like, yo, partnerships and project management is how we mentioned it. How, and you mentioned this already, how your experiences have been with that. I have this thought, so just walk with me, hop in the car, I'm gonna drive a little bit, I'm gonna talk a little bit, right?
You.
So, like, there's so many.
Come on,
it's hot today. So I'm like, there's blue collar work, there's white collar work, I even heard there's green collar work now, right? Like, there's industries, and then there's work and occupations that associate with that. And then, like, over the last, I would say 6 to maybe 10 years, there's this word that becomes consistent: digital creative economy. Like this new pocket of money that's popping out, and the way to get it and how to connect people with certain skills. And I have this idea now that it's like, okay, is the creative economy or like the digital economy its own workforce? Do we rely on the industries that are already created to find work? Because like when you talk about those partnerships and collaborations, I work a lot horizontally, because that's what I have access to, and that comes with its difficulties and its hardships. Then if I want to work vertically, there might be some opportunities or like applications and resumes and stuff that some requirements, that's the word I'm looking for. There's requirements I have to meet that also they can become obstacles or challenges in themselves. So as a creative yourself and just seeing the landscape in the business over the years, is there a creative economy that sustains itself, or does collaboration, like the effective collaborations and partnerships that you've had to grow your business, come from going outside of the creative community, or is there like a balance to it? Like, how do you navigate that? Because that's what our meeting is about. That's what we're kind of navigating, is like, I'll just be frank, part of, like, right now I probably get more consistent money from opportunities. Like, you even just put me on with an opportunity, and like, when I look at that opportunity, it feels more professional than like what I do with my creative stuff. Now, mind you, they super cool, and they're not like mad formal and sign this. So it's like, it's not to pit them against each other or compare it, but I recognize that that's an established business. They know what they need. They have the availability and the position to fill, versus when you deal with the creative economy or the digital economy, everybody don't know exactly what they're doing, and everybody doesn't maybe know their brand. And when you're trying to take pictures or do a logo or throw a show, it's like you said, all those moving pieces sometimes can compromise each other, and sometimes they can be exponentially beneficial because we all have the same efforts and interests involved. So there we go, that's my question.
You definitely said a lot, for sure. No, I appreciate the conversation. One, I would say, just to start, people, friends, family, like, get comfortable with the word no. People have the audacity to say no. They can say no. If they don't want to work with you, they don't want to give you an opportunity, they don't have the resources to share with you, but you see they have 50 apples over there, but then you come and say, can I have one? They still say no. Like, that's not your prerogative. Like, don't lean into that space of no and hone into that. So to start with that space, coming into collaborations, whether it's vertical, latitude, longitude, whatever, just get used to the word no. People have the audacity to say it. But with that being said, everything is a balance. It doesn't matter if you're talking from music to engineering. Like, everything comes with a balance. You want your artist to get into the sound technique sometime to make sure that everything is sounding right with what they're about to put onto this track. You know what I mean? So everything has a balance to it. But there are some engineers that are like, yo, bro, this is for me. This is my job, right? But no, I think that, to just go back, I think everything has a balance to it. So yes, I do think that tapping into other industries help you as a person to grow, just so you can see, like, for example, I talked about on another podcast with my guy Zane, and we were just talking about how, like, I went from getting into radio to saying, yo, like, I have a media production company. And that's something that came from me being uncomfortable with saying, like, yo, even though this is what I want to do, I have to do X, Y, and Z for it to start to make sense. So going into different lanes that I didn't necessarily see for myself helped me to develop other skills that make my craft even stronger when I get back to the things that I actually desire to do. So being in that space, like I always say, is being uncomfortable, I also think will help to develop and foster those partnerships without you necessarily even looking for them. They will come to you because you are now mastering another skill, and I'm like, yo, you can do this and you can do this. How can we work together? You know, that's crazy, bro. I just seen you at, you know, Underground Arts, and you was behind the stage, and now I see you behind a camera. Like, what are you doing, bro? You know what I'm saying? So like that partnership comes just based off of, once again, doing the work, you know, and allowing the work to speak for itself. So yeah, not being scared to do other things that can help you to master the craft that you actually desire to do, for sure.
And yeah, that you just spoke to two of my main major experiences as a creative. Is like I get the majority of my best collaborations and partnerships from just doing the work, and then a lot of my growth definitely came from, I started off making music, but then when I recognized the moving parts to moving a record, and then I introduced myself to the skills that were required to do it, it exponentially increased the trajectory of my records being visible. So, and it's like when I started doing them things, it's like, oh, I gotta learn how to do merch, I gotta learn how to work a camera, I gotta learn how to write up my website, and I gotta do this. And at first you're like this, but it helps.
But that's also something that I talk about a lot when I talk to people who are entrepreneurs or looking to tap into the creative space. Is like, I know the word collaboration right now is even more trendier, right? I don't know what's more trendy right now, BIPOC or collaborations, and both of them are just like, psh. So when it comes down to that word collaboration, you know, I talk about it in a space of start with the relationship. Like, see if you actually like this person. See if this person breath smell good. Like, see if you like being around with this person. You know, see if you like how this person move, like whatever it may be, before you just jump out there and say, like, yo, Terrence, let me work with you in Newport News. Like, bro, like, you could be a slob, you know, when it comes to just like making sure that work is tidy, not necessarily your personal business. I'm talking about like making sure our paperwork is together, making sure our folders look whatever it need to be when we walk into a meeting. And I would never know that because I just jumped in the room with you. I never even set a meeting. We talked on Zoom 3 times, and now we partners.
Sharing Google Drive.
You know, we're on to yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So like, actually take your time to create relationships with people first, so you can understand what a partnership even looks like between you and those entities. And I know that sometimes on that corporate level or those next levels, as far as different sectors and businesses, it's not as easy to create relationships. But use your resources and spaces to create that relationship. Like, yo, Terrence, you know, blah, 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 somebody who work at BCC, like, can you connect me to them so I can just ask them a couple questions real quick? Like, yo, I got an interview next week. Like, what's your thoughts on this and the third? Should I approach it like this? Like, utilize your resources based on the relationships you've already connected to. You know what I'm saying? So it does take some IQ to do that, but the IQ comes from patience. Like, it comes from learning your environment, learning your surroundings, and learning who you are as a person. That's what I'm talking about when I say IQ.
Real rap, man. Yeah. I think, you know, through the experiences, you'll get more and more IQ, and like you said, even patience.
Yeah.
I mean, and being that fly on the wall, observing things. And you mentioned like being the youngest. I'm the youngest too, so, because it's like when you're the youngest, it gives you that vantage point to just see how everybody else moving. And I like what you mentioned about just getting to know people as well. Like, that's honestly why we doing this, because I just wanted to be able to, I value what you do, and like I respect it so much that I'm like, look, I guess that it was inherent, because when you respect yourself and know what you require, and then you see things that you rock with, I like to believe that like you do what you would for yourself, for others, but then be mindful of what they would like for you to do. Like, you should know what they would like you to do, and then at the least you treat people like how you treat yourself. So like, I'm aware of how you run your thing, so I'm like, it's just, I guess that's just like it aligned that way. Like, I would think that this person is going to require a more genuine relationship before anything like that would ever develop. And my man Reason, he always talks about that. We talked about it in our meeting today, where it was like, when he consumes music, and I agreed with him, I like to know a little bit about the artist as much as I can. I would like to not associate like my listening habits to somebody who's, you know what I mean, not the just best individual out of the studio. Like I don't want that energy in my life really.
Yeah, I always recommend one to trust yourself. You know, go with your gut, go with that like initial instinct of how you feel about a person for sure. But two, at the same time, have your own lived experience, your own human experience with everyone. You know, so how they show up in a room with you may not be how they show up in a room with me, and that could just be based on their own intentions of how they want to go about how they split their time with each other. Well, you know, one another. Yeah. So. Having your own experience, like you could be, when you're around me, you could be like I-10 by-10, like let's get it. And then when you get with your bro in production, you're like, bro, come on, let's chill, let's do this, let's do that. You know, we can hit this movie real quick, like whatever. But when you get in a room with somebody else, you like, nah, no playing around, straight up, you know. And that can be confusing to somebody. It's like, yo, why is it different in this relationship than the other? And that can cause that confusion and chaos and lack of communication. You know what I mean? Based on how you switch up between people that you vibe with. So have your own lived experience and go off of that, and then trust your gut first, and then have your own lived experience.
I mean, your first impressions really, not just specifically, but first impressions last a lot, and
that it can be helter skelter with that though. You know what I mean? Like I could look at you, like my first impression when I got in the room with you was like, yo, he quiet and laid back, right? But in reality, like if we vibe exactly, like if we vibing, like you a completely
that's
different
funny
person. But you're not about. If it's a lot of people in this room right now, you're not in the mix. You're not about to be like, yo, give me the mic. You're not about to be like, yo, bro. Like you're not giving none of that. Not saying that that's not your energy that you give off in general, but. On some real shit, like if we was by ourselves, we like how we is now, we chilling, you know what I mean? So that's why you gotta have your own lived experience.
I guess you mean by now, yeah, because my first impression was that, you know, what I mentioned earlier, very professional, and that like you ever play Mortal Kombat?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm like, she's at the top. She's got to be like 7th or 8th. I got time. I gotta wait this out, right? So that's how I perceived it, and it's like that. It's like that impression. That first impression has stuck with me. That's why I was saying today, like, I was always looking real forward to this. And when you know what I mean, you let me know I was doing it, I was like, I've ascended up the Mortal Kombat ladder. But in reality, it's like what you said is like, I'm just really taking the time to, like, the reality of it. That's why I was like, the reality of it is I just want to get to know you. But like, for real though, like, first impressions can be not misleading, but they could not give you the full spectrum of who someone is. So I really think that as well, because
I go back to that corny saying, don't judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, no, because it's true though, because the book have the cover, like, you know what I mean, and you open it like, man, this doesn't resonate.
Exactly.
It doesn't resonate at all.
Exactly.
I actually go through that a lot with, and I'm just sharing now, like, I go through that a lot with, like, having my agenda or my priorities revolved, or just, my priorities centered around being black, right? Like, you know, people are so being pro-black and shit. And, like, people will act like they gotta act like that around me. Like, they don't even really be like that. And then they'll get around me and be like, yeah, I wanna own my masters too. It's like, you willing to give them Jones. Like, you ain't gotta do that. And I'm still gonna rock with you as you. Like, you don't gotta do that around me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I think that you're right. Helter Skelter is like the perfect word, because I know about the music band of it, but I ain't never associated with like a terminology. So, but what time we got? You on the phone? What time is it?
8:21.
Oh, got about 30-ish minutes. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna wrap this up, and then can you clip for me, either one of y'all? Because I always like to ask. It's at the top. It's the red button.